Welcome to TRADEREP. This is Short Hammer. It is the 19th of July, 2019, and we're taking a look at Amazon. Now, Amazon sold off pretty heavily and pierced this uptrend that we've been on since June. And this is just a strong pullback. We're still holding the uptrend. And from my perspective, as long as we hold 1936, we're still bullish. But the buyers did step in and push us back up. And we did push up above the yearly pivot, but we'll get back to that in when we look at the lower time frames. So what we were watching at the open was, would we be able to push back over the 1988 area and regain the 1995s and try to leg back into the 2000s? And that's not what happened. The selling pressure probably more based on the Netflix earnings that were negative, teamed with Amazon being investigated by the EU. It was just a strong push down. But what we have to remember is that we still had really good prime numbers. So let's go to the 4-hour chart. So what we have to think is, on this push down, we did hold this uptrend. Will the buyers think that the value is great here and sort of shake off those Netflix earnings that negatively affected the market? And will the buyers start to really think about how great the Prime Day numbers were, and also that we're heading into earnings for Amazon next week? And also after hours, the Microsoft earnings were pretty good. So will they start to really see value here for a buy back up to potentially test all-time highs? So that's what I'll be watching for on Amazon, is what do the buyers think? Do they say, hey, that was a nice drawdown, take some of this pressure off from this steep climb, and now I'm comfortable getting in at these levels for a squeeze back up into the 2000s? Or will they say, I'm still uncertain, and will we still draw back down? Now let's look at the lower time frame. Now this is our 5-minute chart. So if we're looking from the open, we see this initial sell-off and a drawdown. This line here is the uptrend we've been on since June. It pushed through our supply-demand zone, this 1959 by 1964. There were people that got in on this strong pierce. For me, there's no confirmation buy here. You can get in there, and you can get long, and it can still roll to the downside, because technically you could have thought that this was where you should buy on this steep drop, or this was where you should buy on this steep drop, or this was the one where the buyers are going to step in, and all of those you would have been wrong. So this pierce, the only reason I would buy here is, and maybe I'd have bought here on a pierce of the uptrend, and then let it resolve and expect a pullback through within 30 minutes to an hour of this. Maybe you give it $5 or $10 down, but that's risky on Amazon because it can really roll on you. For me, the first confirmation of getting long was when we went back above and closed above this supply demand zone, and we also regained the trend. So for me, a close here would have been my first buy signal, and I would have a stop here of a pierce and a pullback through this level here. And the buyer stepped in and pushed us up. Now, sometimes if you get that feeling, you can buy this. But that's risky to me. Like, that's a risky buy because you don't know if you'll see more capitulation to the downside. But when you start to see the buyer step in and they start to set the floor here and more buying pressure, and I see it close above one of my supply demand zones, now I'm interested, because I can say, okay, hey, we closed above the supply demand zone. I can keep this super tight and buy here, and then keep my stop here $3 or $5 right below this, and I'm out. So this could be the stop that I'm in on the close of this candle here, waiting for the push through, or I could wait for the push through the VWAP. But my supply demand zone to me is stronger than that, and we did push back above this purple line here is the 50. We did push back above that, but what we'll be watching for going into today when the market opens, the main intraday pivot, this yellow dash line, is at 1972. So I want to see where Amazon opens. Are we going to pull back and test this line or keep going? And I'm going to watch Amazon around this 200 SMA. I want to see if we pierce that and find support and run up. And I want to see what happens when we test the 1988s and the 1995s if the buyers feel there's more value to the upside. The Microsoft earnings, good for the market. We're also going to see what happens with the thoughts of Prime Day. Do those come back into effect now that we've kind of potentially shaken off the Netflix earnings? Does the Prime Day numbers being great come back into effect? And does next week being Amazon's earnings also come back into effect and really stimulate these buyers to start to say in their minds, hey, if I buy at these levels, there is someone that I know will buy from me at a higher level potentially on this. And maybe the buyers get excited again and we start to see a little bit of momentum and a push to the upside. Microsoft is a huge driver and as far as market movement. And so we should see some sort of reaction to those great earnings. And we'll see if those buyers just keep pushing us to the upside. But definitely watching the 1970s if we pull back. And also the 1988 area. And just the area we couldn't break yesterday. If we get over 1988, that was an area that we did not get over during the market yesterday. So we have to see if that's an area that we break and we hold and we sort of leg up into the 1995 area in today's market.